Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Allison Williams, Senior Analyst covering global investment banks and asset managers for Bloomberg Intelligence, which is Bloomberg's in-house proprietary research service. I'm happy to host this table on creating exceptional experience with a 360-degree view of the customer. Customers are at the core of any business, and we believe financial companies embracing technology to optimize the front-end customer experience is a key tenet of success, both globally for both the biggest banks and asset managers that I cover, but also any organization covered broadly by our global team. And this includes many of the companies from which we have insightful leaders that are joining us this morning. This virtual roundtable convenes business executives and experts from leading financial institutions to share how they are accelerating their digital transformation, digitizing end-to-end core banking processes, and using technology to create exceptional customer experiences. The discussion will include how operations and culture are changed with digital innovations. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. This is a virtual event, so please bear with us if you experience any technical issues. If Zoom crashes or you get disconnected, please close and reopen the application or refresh your browser and log back in. If you have any other applications or web pages open, please close them now. In some instances, they can affect your bandwidth and ability to interact with everyone in the meeting. We want to keep this discussion conversational. At any time, if you'd like to chime in on a topic, please raise the hand feature. At the top of your Zoom window, you will see a raise hand icon. If you want to speak, you can click this button and I will do my best to call on you. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you get called on. And then before we get started, I'd like to thank IBM for sponsoring this event. And I would like to introduce Alarise Lonergan, Partner Financial Services Enterprise Strategy and IX North America Market Leader, IBM, who will say a few words.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I'm excited for such a fantastic group that we have here together. My name is Alarise Lonergan. I run our financial services market for enterprise strategy and IX at IBM. And it's really an area where we focus on understanding human user needs and how do we underpin technology to enable end-to-end customer journeys, delightful experiences. And I think as we think about the landscape of the financial services industry, I mean, it is in constant flux, and probably even more constant flux is the human needs, as the last year will tell us. So central to our discussion today, I really want you to share your experiences, how you're creating exceptional customer experiences, how you're interjecting technology into that experience, how you're thinking about the operational changes that you're making at your individual companies, how you're thinking about new ways of working. I'm sure we've all embraced new ways of working. Look at us here today as an example of that. Think about how you're transforming and how you've accelerated your digital transformation. So again, I encourage you to be open, take advantage of this fantastic group that we have here today to share your perspectives. So I'll turn it back over to you, Allison. Thank you.
Thanks, Alarise. Let's begin. So the first question that I thought we might start off with, just since this is a panel on customers, again, the core, can anyone speak to how AI is used to enhance the customer experience? Grace, it looks like perhaps you would like to add some comments there.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for having me. So I think anyone in the customer experience space spends a lot of time thinking about moments of truth, or those moments that matter. And as referenced earlier, I think we all globally, universally felt one giant moment of truth over the last 12 months and progressively through the 12 months since then. And so when I think about it, everybody's lives got so much more complex. Their financial futures got so much more uncertain. And it's at times like that when you don't know what's happening that sound, good, personalized advice is so critical. And when I think about the way that we respond to that, how do we create that one defining moment of truth advice journey for millions of customers across, in our case, many different markets that are experiencing the pandemic, but experiencing in potentially different ways? and at different times and at different severities. And when I think about serving a wonderful experience to all those millions of customers at the same time, AI is the only answer. AI allows us to have the scale benefit of automation without compromising on the value of personalization, customization, and empathy. In fact, it almost enhances that. And so we've been spending our time kind of embedding AI into all of our conversations with our customers across all of our countries across the Americas. So even earlier this year, we launched CME, which is our Canadian marketing and engagement engine. And through that, we're able to constantly analyze our customer needs, be able to collect data from across all of our many different interactions across our ecosystem, and ultimately to derive a much better experience for all of our customers, no matter where they choose to deal with us. And for us at Scotiabank, I mean, it is so core to our mission to be able to break through that constant battle between capacity and coverage, capacity and quality, to be able to build for every future. That's our mission, and that's our value system. And we believe that everybody has the right to become financially better off, and we don't want to leave anyone behind. And AI is a critical enabler to that.
Okay, great. Yeah, it is definitely the capacity versus quality, I think, is a key consideration. Raphael, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been using machine learning and AI in our experiences for a while, but really, most recently, just thinking about how we use it to better personalize the experience. We've had a lot of success most recently with our Amex Offers product, so giving our customers, savings when they're spending and making that available through our mobile app, our website, and most recently we've tripled engagement with Amex Offers, and that's through making sure that they're really personalized and targeted and take into account, our customers' spending habits as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for those insights. And then perhaps we can talk a little bit about how you all have embraced customer journeys, and maybe perhaps touch on rolling out upgrades. Natalie, did you want to chime in on that?
Yes, certainly. Well, essentially, Desjardins being a cooperative, it was really important for us to do our digital transformation, really focused on the loyalty of our members to the organization. And we, a few years ago, realized that there were a few journeys that were really important for us. First of all, it's all the everyday banking initiations that our customers have to do with us. The second one is the home owning, and essentially the third one that we have put people to work on is the long-time well-being, financial well-being of our members. And essentially, what we've done is use our NPS system. We have launched it to the entire organization. We used to be really focusing on channel and assisted channels to measure loyalty and see what would drive it. But once we've introduced it in our digital capacities, what we really realized is the fact that what would make drop the loyalty of our customer is when they had to go from one channel to the other in a journey. And that would drop, like for credit cards, it would drop up to 29%, the NPS score, so the Net Promoter Score, on a specific journey. Why? Not because the assisted channels, when the call center would take a call, was not doing its job, but essentially it's because when a client or a member starts doing something on the digital and we don't make it easy for him or her to reach a person, well, that was mostly affecting loyalty. And we're really happy that we focused on what's important for the client, because essentially we were really driven in giving more capacity on digital and not necessarily focusing enough on making the end-to-end journey easy. And that has made a big difference. So using the voice of our customers, our members, has really, really helped that journey transformation.
Excellent, thank you. And perhaps we can build on that and talk about, sort of rolling out that personalization at scale. Rizwan, I think you wanted to perhaps chime in a little here.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. We've all seen an increase in our digital adoption and engagement, and it's amazing to see. It's across the board. Canadians have taken to self-serve capabilities due to health, safety, convenience reasons. And when we look at the new to the channel customer, it's quite impressive that it's across the demographic spectrum. I look at the verbatims from our customers, and I'm impressed by the seniors who have taken the step to be able to onboard on digital for their convenience. Something that they didn't anticipate, but the environment kind of pushed them to it. And a lot of the feedback kind of comes around, it's easy, I should have tried it earlier. And, there's a sense of empowerment. When you look at engagement, you see a lot of the customers who used to do 2 or 3 transactions on digital, 2 or 3 types of transactions, now are doing, a whole suite of transactions, on digital, whether it was paying bills or, transferring money domestically, internationally, or even depositing the checks. More and more, we start to see that those customers with a high level of fluency from a digital perspective are looking for insights and advice. And that's where personalization at scale comes into play. We need to be able to look at the data that we have with our customers and apply an intelligence layer that would include AI, as it was referenced before, but it also could include, decision engines and traditional rules engines, where you are now assessing the needs of these customers and invoking the capabilities, to best meet their needs. I think, from a personalization perspective, to evolve the customer experience, we will have to look at the preferences of each of our customers and take that into account before we invoke this capability into an experience. And that's where we're working on an interaction layer, which would effectively look at the specific preferences of the customers, what they would require, and then create an experience that's unique to them. That's how we see the personalization at scale come together. An example would be if I'm paying if my bill is due and my bank sends me a notification to say, hey, your bill payment is due, I might be one of those customers that just wants to kind of pay the bill and move on. In which case, it should be a push notification which says, hey, your bill's upcoming. Do you want to pay it right now? Yes or no? But there might be another customer who wants to see their past bill payments before they make the next bill payment. We want to be able to recognize that about that customer. And in which case, you would actually say, hey, your upcoming bill is due. Do you want to see your past bill pays before you make this bill payment? So I think, we are on a journey here where we started from, at least in digital, it was simple, fast, easy, intuitive, to now highly personalized and connected, to the comments that I made earlier.
And I think that is the power of technology, right? Doing things more efficiently, but making it very personalized.
That's right.
And I think, so another key aspect, I think, is customer transparency. And Kate, I know that you are a big advocate of customer transparency. Perhaps you can talk about that aspect of, when you roll out customer upgrades.
Sure, thank you. And ditto to everything that's been said earlier. Couldn't agree with the panelists more around omni-channel experiences and making those experiences seamless. An enabler to that is allowing the customer to have control, have understanding of the information that we share with one another, the customer with the bank and the bank with the customer, and making that as transparent and accessible as possible so that the customer can direct her journey through our various channels and experiences and help in that customization process. Well, how can she help? It's if we provide as much information to her and she gains trust in our ability to use that information effectively to enable even better customer experiences. And so we have been trying, and in fact, as early as this morning, I woke up to a release on our digital properties where we were starting to provide more information around our posting and how customers understand just simple posting, which is just a foundational element of banking, and making that more transparent and accessible to customers, because it's critical to our joint effort to enable these exceptional experiences that the panelists just referenced.
Great, yes. And Michael, did you want to add to that?
Definitely. One of the things that our company does is we're responsible for distributing regulatory communications. So in many ways, our clients are financial services companies, but the end clients many times are receiving regulatory documents that they may or may not want to be receiving, or they might throw away. So we do have a challenge of making sure that as we think about that customer journey, when we think about the end experience, that is one that is engaging. And to some degree, it's highly predicated on how regulators think. So I do think that, as part of what we've all been going through, and we're all experiencing, that government regulators are also similarly thinking through things a bit differently, which will hopefully impact the way in which we our business can greater improve some of the experiences that folks have, when people, own a stock in Apple or whatnot, and they get a proxy notification or some sort of, annual report, that notification and that material that they get is engaging. And frankly, there are opportunities where companies can use those regulatory communications as kind of a twofer, right? So you can use that to not only send something that you need to send out, but also create something where you will send something that you want to send out, right? So those are the things that we've been exploring. We think, and I definitely agree with everything that everyone on the panel has said so far, and certainly Grace around data and AI. I think that is a real opportunity for us as well in terms of just digitization and the opportunities that creates for us to do more innovation at scale.
Great. And so thanks for those thoughts and really so far all of the great insights into how you're thinking about things. It's great to hear how all the different organizations are approaching the experience. But I do wonder, from the customer side of things, what has been the customer response to some of the initiatives so far, and especially what has been the customer response to some of the automated offerings? Jason, did you want to add some insights, chime in with some insights there?
Yeah, well, I think the customer feedback for a lot of what we've talked about, in particular, what's happened over the last year, it's driven tremendous changes in customer behavior for obvious reasons. I mean, we're now experiencing what it means to going to a branch could actually be dangerous to interact with your bank. So that definitely shifted a lot of the behavior that we're seeing, but how the customers are responding to that, I think it's been touched on quite a bit so far by some of the other panelists, is they really do realize that it's easy to engage. It's something that they can have confidence in, that they can trust. And then it starts to build from there, and they start to learn more and more about what they can actually do through the different platforms that we offer. But it's incredibly important to have a robust feedback loop that you can quickly incorporate into those customer journeys that you're trying to create. So that's been a big part of our focus at Wells Fargo, is as those customers are interacting with us, and we've got this rich amount of data that we understand about how they're using it, how easy it is to use the functionality that we have for them, whether they're becoming frustrated or they have questions or concerns, we can bake all that into a quick feedback loop that then goes into the enhancement process to make that experience even better. So we've really been focused on the customer journeys and actually organizing our teams around those customer journeys. And I think many people have said it spot on, which is that customers really don't think about channels. They just think about what they need to do. They think about what their goals are. And it happens to, happen in a particular channel, but that's not the intent. That's not where they start off when they're getting up every morning. So that's really been our focus, is to really position everything that we do and how we even think about how the teams are set up to support this, to be all about those customer journeys. And then those touch points, those become the nuances about how that actually gets delivered.
I think that's a great point, and the panelists have touched on sort of that seamless delivery in terms of banks and companies thinking about the channels, but the customer is just going to think about sort of the end product and the experience. Rami, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I want to pick up on something that Jason said and Rizwan, and take it in a slightly different direction. It's that we're finding consumers are shopping us incredibly differently, as all of our organizations, especially over the last 1.5 to 2 years. And I use the term shopping incredibly loosely, but they're choosing their methods of interacting with us. We're seeing changes, as Rizwan had mentioned, in certain client demographics that quite similar to Rizwan's experience. We're seeing our older population behave more like our tech-savvy mobile population. They're behaving more like the tweens and the Gen Zers than they are any other demographic, and that's really turning, I think, all of our previous convictions on their head. Customer journeys have been incredibly critical to us. We've organized completely around customer journeys end to end, as opposed to channel construct. And what we're really incredibly excited about is the promise of AI and data around intent prediction. And as these client groups move their behavior with us as financial institutions and organization, really beginning to become quite advanced at our ability to predict intent and get them in the most convenient spot and move our capabilities forward to really resolving intent in the fastest, most expedient, and greatest client experience manner possible, and really move that interaction from a touch point to an absolute delight moment.
Great. And then maybe taking it to another level and thinking about the overall organization. So sort of the input, perhaps looking at how to break down silos across the firm. How do we instill cultural change that comes with these advancements and AI implementation? Kate, did you want to speak a little bit about your experience at Regions?
Sure, Allison. Before I do, though, I can't help but notice how the mindset of really everyone here represents a real evolution in banking. It's moving away from, dare I say, an ivory tower mindset of years gone by, to making sure customers know that they've been seen, they've been heard, and that everything we're focused on is ensuring that customers feel like they're part of navigating and creating their own experiences. And part of that, as from an organizational perspective, is exactly what you just asked, Allison, is how do you architect that internally in order to deliver it? And sounds like lots of my panelist peers here have been working on that. Jason mentioned, organizing around customer journeys. We've been doing a lot of that through agile principles, but I will say there was a huge acceleration in that effort, starting about 13 months ago, right? When out of necessity, we all had to rally around the customer because the customer had real, immediate, and urgent needs. And there was no better unifying moment for our organization around the customer across every aspect and every silo than getting to respond and help our customers, small business, corporate, and consumer alike. I felt like we all became frontline workers, not from a medical perspective, but from an economic perspective in a single moment. And that created a great deal of purpose around this notion of purpose and reality around the notion of organizing around the customer, because we all did. We immediately took off our day job hat and put on a new hat, which was very customer focused, and we had to work across silos and very iterative, because the economy, the situation was changing. There were a lot of unknowns, and so if we were not listening to customers and responding in the moment, then by definition, we weren't able to serve them. So there was work at Regions, just like at a lot of the organizations here represented prior to the pandemic. I'd say that has accelerated beyond ways I'd ever imagined post-pandemic, all with the customer at the center, because the customer had to be 13 months ago and has to be now.
Okay, great. Yeah, very, very valid point. And Raphael, did you want to add to that?
Yes, we've done a lot to organize ourselves into what we lovingly refer to as squads, made up of our designers, our product managers, our engineers, our data scientists, our analytics team members. And by organizing, we're creating cohesion within that team, focused on the greater good of the customer experience. And I think we've seen great acceleration in what we've been able to do because that each of those squads has a common outcome and focus, and they really work together and drive efficiency. I mean, just even recently, and I can speak to one of our most recent innovations by our design and engineers working really closely together and creating a native design language in one of their squads. And just last night, we launched dark mode in our Amex mobile app because of the innovation that these squads have been able to focus on together.
That's great. And I think because culture is such an important topic, does anyone else want to weigh on some of the cultural impacts at their firm or ways that you've tried to manage that? Alarise, did you want to add something?
Sure. I was just thinking I love the conversation we're having today, and the fact that so many of you have focused on just changing the way in which you're working with clients, with your clients, within your teams. It's putting the client, in your case, at the center of everything you do. And we saw a lot of that in terms of how we were working with many of you from IBM, many of you as clients of ours too, in terms of deploying lots of agile ways of working, doing it at scale. Even something that we've done is we've formulated Ibm Garages, where it's not just about let's innovate and ideate for endless amounts of time. It was actually, let's figure a focused outcome. Let's actually drive towards it and produce something that we can put out into the market quickly. And we've seen a lot of successes with a number of our clients by doing that in that way. And I think that was a huge change from years past, where we used to innovate and we'd keep thinking and keep ideating for quite some time. And the last year certainly taught us, as well as many of the clients I work with, that we needed to get something out there, even if it wasn't perfect. And that was okay, because actually, a lot of the customers are used to us having upgrades. I mean, how many of you probably get upgrade requests for every single app that you're on? You probably got a notification while we've been communicating now. So they're actually used to it. It's ingrained within the customer mindset for us to do that and not have it perfect right from the get-go.
Great. And Jason, did you want to add to that?
To the point around how the teams respond to these types of changes. One of the things that I've used as an example of that is if you build a squad or a garage or whatever product-centric term you want to use for a joint team, and they're focused on a branch-specific platform or product, for example, well, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone that every challenge that they're faced with, they're going to see that through the lens of a branch solution. And that's, again, where the customer journey concept is so important, because the customer journey does not have a primary concern of those touch points. So physical, digital, voice, chatbot, all of those different interaction points are potential paths that a customer would take on a journey end to end. So we want the teams to be seeing everything through that lens, through the lens of a journey end to end, agnostic of a particular channel. And when we have everyone kind of aligned in the right way, it really does drive a different set of behaviors, discussions, debates, and outcomes. But it's a really powerful concept.
Indeed. And Michael, did you want to chime in as well?
Yeah, definitely. Just one thing I wanted to add was that for us, and again, agree with everything everyone said. Certainly, we've been going through an IT modernization process, and specifically moving to the cloud. And so, just as we think about the processes and the culture and the way we have worked, there's the underlying infrastructure that has allowed all this to happen. And so, for us, helping that transition, accelerating that process, and utilizing the cloud in a much more accelerated fashion has really helped us and enabled us to help drive better outcomes for our clients. Certainly utilizing data, leveraging that data and utilizing AI to get there. But that's been a big part as well, which is the underlying infrastructure that helps support all the processes and changes that we're talking about.
Okay, great. Anyone else want to chime in before we move on to the next question? Okay, so I think sticking, I guess, with perhaps the firm experience, I'm curious to hear thoughts on scaling the customer experience across different product lines. Rizwan, did you have something that you wanted to add there?
Yeah, no, sure. I think for us, we've seen, as I mentioned earlier, a surge, in digital adoption and engagement, and the demand for self-serve capabilities and innovating around self-serve capabilities has increased. I'll pick up a point that was mentioned earlier that, the purpose, through the pandemic and our response to our customers and the customer centricity came out very loud and clear. But I have to, point out that, our own colleagues, across the bank, their response, to serve and support our customers was inspirational. And, hopefully we can actually learn, from that experience, and organize ourselves in a way where, we are empowering, our colleagues, to be able to serve our customers. And I'll give you an example, just to bring this to life, right? During the pandemic, in the US, for our US customers, we saw a lot of, our mobile customers at a certain point in their mobile journey, end up calling the contact center in terms of getting their query fulfilled. And the teams noticed that. They used the data, that they could actually capture in terms of where the customers were getting stuck. And right away, within 3 weeks, on their own, where the purpose was clear, to serve our customers, and have them not call in and be able to kind of help them self-serve, created a chatbot. And in 3 weeks, they were able to get the chatbot live and avoid hundreds of thousands of queries that would end up, in a very frustrated manner, into the contact center versus, empowering the customer to be able to self-serve. And so, that philosophy, that approach of really, freeing up our colleagues, to ways of working, that they can truly serve our customers is a big learning for us. And I've heard this, throughout the, panelists, in terms of, how do we actually get ourselves out of the way and truly have, our colleagues, our designers, our developers, our data folks, to truly take their talent, and where the purpose is clear, be able to kind of serve our customers. A lot of our innovation, Allison, has been around self-serve, whether we've seen the adoption of chatbots. I mentioned, the surge across our digital properties. I'll give another example in terms of what our teams were able to think of, and I'll give you an AI example. Leveraging a capability we have at TD through an acquisition. We had acquired a Canadian company, Layer 6, 3 years ago. A fantastic company, best in class in terms of predictive AI. We were able to use their AI model to predict low balances for customers during this time. And the team was able, to organize themselves in a pod, to create an experience where we'd reach out to customers where, when their balances would be running low in the next few weeks, and then have a set of actionable insights propose to them to help them navigate through that situation towards, better financial wellness. The uptake on that particular experience was amazing, and the satisfaction rate, across the customers that we exposed this capability was one of the highest that I've seen. And so, here is another example how, the teams were able to leverage technology, data, AI, and put it in an experience that was meaningful to the customers, as long as, the teams feel empowered to be able to do this with agility, on a go-forward basis.
Okay, great. And Grace, did you want to add to Rizwan's insights?
Yes, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And, as we think about integrating AI and better models, it doesn't have to be AI, but better models into the way that we interact with our customers. One of the things that we think about is the scale. And so when we think about a consistent experience, one that's available to everyone, you do need to kind of balance consistency and quality or relevance. And those are somewhat opposing thoughts. Centralization and repeatability, reusability, very important to consistency, but being relevant actually does require quite a bit of customization, understanding, and often our colleagues, Rizwan, to your point, are the people who hear it the most directly and can add the nuance to it. But all of these models create a lot of technical work to do. So we had actually launched a global AI platform so that all of our colleagues across the Americas could leverage at least modern technology to access better compute, to be able to do their work faster. And so, in and of itself, that's a virtue. But what we didn't realize would happen, and has happened as a side benefit, is that this is allowed because everybody's on a common platform. They're sharing code, they're sharing ideas and insights, they're building on each other's work and ultimately deriving a much better and ultimately more consistent customer experience and a framework for that across the team. So being able to harness the ingenuity, the great ideas from developers, engineers, data scientists across the many countries that we operate in, harnessing that into a single platform that then we can every great idea has to turn into a BAU process. Otherwise, it's an accident, not a practice. We're able to then harden that into an enterprise solution through that and disseminate it to not just one country, but many. And so that allows us to keep the Scotiabank promise alive and consistent across all of our many countries and our many banners.
It's great. It's great perspective of sort of the broad distribution, if you will. And Natalie, did you also want to chime in a bit on this, or perhaps expand on how customers are engaging with you?
Yes, certainly. Well, essentially, what I really appreciated about your question a while ago, Alison, was how culture changes. And what I've seen that has really helped in our organization is the call from the top with our president calling us and having one culture, and one culture being the customer-centric culture. And yes, Agile is there to support it. And yes, AI is there to support it. And, all the capacities and ways of organizing is there to help the customer culture. And the question that we have had to ask ourselves is, how do you bring back the voice of the customer in all the work that we're doing? Because these agile squads that we put together, essentially they come from technical backgrounds, from marketing backgrounds, from manufacturing the product background, but what really relates them? And maybe there's an example that comes to my mind to give more of an image. We had our manufacturing people from credit cards looking at data about how many customers really pay their balance at the end of the month, and why do young people don't pay all the balance on their credit card at the end of the month. And we all know how it's tough on your financial life. Hey, it's back to basics. It's tough on your financial life when you start so young having a payment not done. And what we've done through research is realize that essentially 40% of our customers didn't understand the billing cycle, the minimum balance at the end of the month, the impact of on not paying. So what we've rebuilt through our app and through our proposition to the client is a way for them not only to pay the bill, but to understand and to bring advice really targeted to habits that we've seen our customers have around that. And that has helped a lot to see the financial well-being of our member getting better. We've seen the numbers moving, and that really has helped in the head of our employees understand that, well, maybe we're going to make a little less interest on the balances that the customers leave on their account. But essentially, it's better for them. And if it's better for them, well, the organization is really true to its mission to help its member clients. You know, you need to find some artifact like that to make sure that all these squads that work together from different backgrounds understand what's expected of them. And I think that we've done a few of that. We need to find a way to scale that. Yes, using all the capacity AI can bring. Yes, bringing the right the right advice to the right customer at the right time, but at the same time is for our people to understand what they can take, what liberty they can take to bring a really good member and client experience.
Okay, great. And I think that it's interesting to see the passion. Obviously, there's a big passion on serving the clients, but also around the culture and the importance to it. And in fact, it reminds me of a great quote from Peter Drucker, which is, you know, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. So I might be paraphrasing that a little bit, but I think it really does go to the importance of culture. And Kate, I see that you want to chime in a little bit on this.
Well, I just loved what Natalie said about leadership. And to your point, leadership is what dictates and drives the culture of an organization at the end of the day. And customers are looking for authenticity. And as much as anything else, their leadership and the culture of the institutions that they work with. And so when we talk about customer experience and convenience and so forth, what we're really talking about is providing customers with an authentic experience that shows them that their needs, as we've discussed, are being met by people who really care about them and care about meeting their needs. And that tone has to come from the top. There is no way to overstate how important leadership is to ensuring a culture of strong engagement among a workforce. And that keeps positive customer experience and engagement as the focus of everything that we have to do. And I think at Regions, our associates know that our leadership truly values, supports, empowers, and ultimately believes in a superior customer experience. And there can't be any ambiguity or surrounding that. Our associates have to know that delivering that experience is expected of them. And so, you know, I'm personally grateful that our leadership team across the company is united in that strong vision. But as previously been said, it has to come from the top. It has to emanate the culture, or else it won't ever be successful for customers.
Well, that's important. And Rami, did you want to add to the discussion?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Kate took us in an incredible direction. At the end of the day, stepping into a transformation that we're all seeing happen across the industry without a culture imperative will lead to suboptimal results. I don't think organizations will get the results they're looking for without a fundamental look and rethink about culture. And that is probably the most critical success ingredient. Some of the things we love to sponsor, things are less deferral to hierarchy or no deferral to hierarchy. We often write these on our whiteboards. Really, the culture of self-empowerment, experimentation. You know, you're not going to get it wrong, and if you do, it's probably not going to put the organization at significant risk. But the outcomes are multitudes of benefits that the organization gets to reap. And at the end of the day, we have really aspired to have an organization that moves faster than us at the team level than it does at the executive level. And that is really inverting the culture and the team structure on its head. So we've often, MBA School 101, they teach you about the pyramid, and what we're really passionate about is, can we flip that pyramid on its head from top to bottom? And frankly, that is what our newest colleagues who are joining us out of school, and then the best and greatest talent we can get on the street, are expecting of us. We're not going to be able to recruit, retain, and keep the best talent that will be required to lead and grow in this transformation that we're all undergoing. And I finally find that they really have a great sense of the client. And often embedding them at the center of these squads and these journeys is one of the most critical things we do.
That's great. And Michael, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, really quickly, just to add on what Rami said, as well as Kate, which is that at our company, our customer service orientation, to add more bite to it, every single associate in our company is actually paid on the basis of client sat. So 100% of the employees are completely and 100% oriented towards that. So that has created real tension around making sure that we put our money where our mouth is. And so that's just a tool to accomplish that. And then another thing I was just going to say, which was, a stream that we were talking about earlier around customer service, which is that there's also process improvements, and we talked about agile, but there's also cost improvements that can also benefit from this. And just a quick example I was going to give for Broadridge is that, one of the things that we do, we partner with financial advisors to, obviously their goal is to just acquire and to bring in as many assets as possible. And so what we've tried to do is create a tool for them that utilizes AI, utilizes data to really anticipate investor needs at various parts of the investment lifecycle. And so we're taking data across a number of different interactions around communications, around trading data, and effectively using that to try to create a predictive analytic tool that will deepen and broaden our relationships in a more scalable manner for each of the financial advisors. And so if you imagine the world before, where to get that information, it was highly manual, they're looking and guessing and seeing and searching and it's pretty manual, it's time consuming, and it's not data driven to approach where you can quantify a lot of that actually creates a ton of efficiency. It's better for everyone, right? It's better for the customer. It's obviously better for the financial advisor. So I just, want to underscore the point that there are real cost and efficiency outcomes that come from digitization as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Did anyone else want to add there? Okay, perhaps we'll to that point, digital efficiency. Those are all sort of big themes. And when we talk about success, obviously we think about KPIs. Jason, did you want to add anything there on KPIs?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question, because a lot of the focus for us has actually been on OKRs. So we end up, if we're not careful, in this little nuanced debate about what's the difference between a KPI and an OKR. OKR, objectives and key results. But what we want is those product teams, the squads, to have a very clear set of objectives and key results and OKRs. And that's a very simple way for us to understand with clarity, what is that product team focused on? What does success look like? How do we know that we're progressing towards that success? Or we may be off track and we need to kind of shift our approach to what it is that we're building, or what it is that we're, or how we're exposing it as far as user experience goes out to our customers. So we've become very focused on a simplistic set of OKRs by product, which is, and again, our products are attached to a journey, and they're not going to be products that are specific to legacy channels or even legacy banking products. We're really focused on that journey end to end of what the customer is trying to do. And then what are a set of very simple objectives and key results that we need to be tied into. So that's been how we've viewed that. As far as what the specific OKRs are, I don't think it's going to be things that are dramatically different than what everyone is sort of focused on, which is that we want our customers to be successful. with what they're doing. We want, specific customers such as a small business. Small business, they don't have time to worry about what's going on with their banking or their bills or their payments. That they're running a small business, which is a full-time and a half job outside of a pandemic. And then you sprinkle a pandemic on top of that, and it can be all encompassing. So a small business owner really does not have the time to worry about a lot of things that have to do with the mechanisms around their financial products. Whereas a consumer customer, depending on where they are in their life stage, they may have a completely different view, and they may want a lot more information. They may actually treat that more as an episode that they want to engage in purposefully. So we have to be able to stage those OKRs in such a way that really suits the different types of experiences that we're creating with the different personas that we need to be able to support.
Okay, great. And Natalie, did you want to add to that?
Yes, well, maybe you said about KPIs. What we realized after a while in our digital transformation was that we needed to have a common set of KPIs that people that worked on digital and the evolution of other channels had to work with a specific set of common KPIs, just to make sure that, first line employees enable digital, that people that work on digital channel kind of help the contact centers in some lower value calls that they would get. So this has become a really a great source of alignment for the people that we have put together to work on journeys, being everyday banking or home owning within the organization, and the different products that we propose to our client and members. So that's the percentage of sales on digital that we would want to see higher. And why do we want to see it higher? Well, because our customers, when we ask them, say that they would love to do more on digital than what is available at this point. So if your first line employees understand that, as well as the people that work on the digital channel, well, it becomes like an organization rally. People work to make sure that we do get to the final end result, and that final end result is in the eyes of the customers. So it's really, really core in the work that we do to use those KPIs in the right manner, and that leadership shows that it is important and that we will support the end results that we are looking for.
Okay, great. And Raphael, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just quickly adding to what Jason and Natalie were saying, we've got OKRs and top line KPIs that we track, on an ongoing basis. But what we're also looking to do is experimentation at scale. So as we, innovate and change many of our experiences and adapting what we do based on customer feedback, external insights, the competition, and thinking about how we can create really good and best-in-class digital experiences. The experimentation that we do is really important. And doing that at scale, you've got to have a number of hypotheses as well. So not just about what KPIs you're tracking and trying to obtain, but what are your hypotheses as you're changing along the way? Because one change could actually either positively or negatively impact another KPI. You've got to keep all of that in mind and have a very clear roadmap of change, hypothesis, and then adapt based on what you're learning on an ongoing basis. And that's where our analytics team is playing a really important role, in the statisticians that we have, as part of our team and as part of our core working squad, because they're proving invaluable to how we think about experimentation. And it's I think we've been quite successful in testing new techniques for financial services, most recently winning, the best credit card mobile app from JD Power over a number of years. And that's because of testing new ways of engaging with our customers over time.
Okay, great. And Rami, did you want to add there?
Yeah, I want to pick up something that Raphael said, which really is at the heart of this. I think we're as we see this sea change that's happening across the industry, we're all having to lean into thinking about business models, thinking about shifting what we do from a daily basis, our operating model structures, how we serve our clients, and the fundamentals of our economics. And those are fairly large scale changes and large bets to do either on a whim or as a large initiative. They tend to pull us back into our DNA as financial institutions of risk aversion and conservatism. And this a lot of the tools that we've been talking about at transformation really give us the capability about stepping into these large scale shifts across our businesses in a meaningful, thoughtful way, while continuing to keep the client at the center and maybe not the business model at the center. Raphael, bang on. That's exactly the way to think about it.
Okay, great. And Michael?
Yeah, just really quickly, when I was also wanted to add on to what Raphael said, because she talked about innovation at scale, and from where we sit at the table, across the system, a bunch of firms are trying to recreate the same thing, and you see a lot of redundancy across the system overall. And so, as a financial services provider, we try to bring that together. So we try to actually facilitate that innovation at scale, where we take the learnings from different firms that are doing the same thing, bring it together, try to get some best practices and implement that across the industry. So that's something that I've seen also quite a bit, which is that a lot of people are solving for very similar problems. So how do you also solve for the innovation point, and doing it at a level that is best in class, but also in a way that can benefit multiple customers that overlap with a lot of the clients that we all serve. And so that's something that I've seen. I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Okay, great. And then Grace, did you want to add anything on the KPIs, or just in general on the customer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't agree more with all the panelists on this call. This was a really robust conversation. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that the pandemic really taught us how to work together. So irrespective of the KPIs that are specific to our areas, whether it's in analytics, whether it's in the business line, whether it's the channels, whether it's technology, we all learned the value of working together, and ensuring that the success of each other's areas, and ultimately, in our case of the bank, is paramount. And making sure that we protect our customers, we protect our employees, and we're making sure that we're keeping an eye on how that's evolving over time. That's our responsibility and our shared accountability to each other. And so if we continue to benefit from the lessons that we learned, the hard-won lessons that we learned over the last 12 months, and keep that momentum, keep that focus, and keep that commitment to each other, I think that there's no way that we can lose. I think the way that we've structured ourselves at Scotia is so unique, in that I report to the business. We don't report to technology. We don't report to finance. We report to the business, who reports to the customer. So that keeps us very focused on what's most important. The models don't work if they're not getting out to a customer and providing benefit. And that's the mantra we live by.
That's great, and a great way to point out that the structure also matters. And Rizwan, anything from you before we close out?
No, thanks, Alison. No, I think this is a good discussion. The pandemic has accelerated the transformation, but it's created a huge opportunity for all of us to enrich the lives of our customers, our colleagues, and communities. I would be remiss to say that for us, we're in a fortunate position. We've driven further adoption, further engagement with our customers. We've built on the trust, which is the basis of our relationship with our customers, and found out new ways to serve them, support them on what's important to them, not important to us. And so I kind of feel like, the pandemic, while, it's been difficult for so many people, I would say for our organization, we've actually, learned a lot. We've actually, put it back into, a practice and scale it, whether it's innovation, whether it's the use of AI, data, whether it's ways of working, truly empowering our colleagues, in a way that, will continue to serve our customers for the better going forward.
Okay, great. This has really been a great, insightful discussion. Alarise, is there any comment or comments you'd like to make as we close out?
Thank you, Allison, and thank you all. I really want to say thank you all. We were open. We created such a fantastic dialogue today. I'm sure we could go on for hours based on what the journeys you're each on, but there were a lot of great themes that came from today. It was a focus on the customer centricity, changing the orientation of how the business model works at each of your companies to be oriented around the customer. And I think that's the essence of what you're each trying to do in the journey that we're on. So I want to thank you all for your participation actively and all the points of view that you shared. It starts with the customer at the heart, and AI, new ways of working, process, tools are a way for us to enable those end-to-end journeys and experiences for customers.
Thanks, Alarise, and thank you for the thoughts. And I will also echo your thank you to all of the participants for a great, insightful conversation. I also want to make sure to thank IBM for sponsoring the event. One housekeeping item as we close: we will send the event highlights article once it is complete. And again, thank you to everyone. Best of luck and stay healthy. Take care.